There are many universal truths, as plenty of things are likely to happen to you in life, but only a few things are certain. That is death, taxes, and apparently Rin not being in the Fate collab.
Oh my god!
The good news though is that we got Archer, who for some reason they made really broken. And the best part, he's completely free and totally dripped out in a new fit. Today, I'm gonna be teaching you how to play and build Archer in Honkai Star Rail. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's talk about Archer. Honkai Star Rail is a turn-based game, and it's based on Archer's turn. Long gone are the days of Zilla taking all of the actions, because now it's Archer's turn, and he's not stopping, and he's not stopping, and he's not stopping until he drains all of your skill points. This guy uses more SP than Gen 3 Shiny Hunters. This is because Archer's skill opens up his mana circuits, which I guess only Fate fans know what that means. This essentially lets him just keep taking turns until he's out of skill points or until his turn is manually ended. When using Archer's skill, it costs 2 skill points, but dishes out a ton of damage to a single target, and for every skill that's used consecutively, he gets 100% more damage bonus to his skill up to a total of 200%. So essentially, his first skill is normal, his second skill has 100% damage bonus, and his third onward all have 200% damage bonus, which is absurd. His skill can be used up to 5 times in a row, but I'm gonna be so for real, if you have the ability to skill more than 5 times, then you're not playing Archer, you're playing God. There's a couple things you can do to alleviate the stress on your skill points though, including speed tuning teammates, playing with Sparkle or Hanya, and more. For instance, one of Archer's major traces increases your team's max skill point limit by 2, so it lets you stockpile more potential damage. He couldn't save everyone, so instead the goal is to save skill points, and always attack at least 3 times in a row. But if you can do 4 or 5, that's way better, because then people will be killed, and not a lot of people know this, but people die if they're killed.
Wow!
The other reason to save up skill points is because one of his major traces gives you a massive 120% crit damage buff if you have 4 or more SP when you gain one. So Archer essentially gets free damage for solid planning. Archer also has a follow-up mechanic in his talent that uses charges to attack the primary target after an ally attacks. The main benefit of his follow-ups though are that each one will give you a skill point back, which helps a ton with managing skill points and getting him to be able to attack even more. Wow, the Archer class really is made up of archers. The charges for Archer's follow-up aren't super easy to get, since you only get 1 at the start of his combat with his technique, 1 from one of his major traces at the start of combat, and then 2 for every ult that he uses. But they deal a decent amount of extra damage. When you press Archer's ult button, he starts aura farming.
I am the bone of my soul.
Now let me tell you, for a faker, this guy does a crazy amount of damage.
I have created over 1,000 blades.
This is honestly one of my favorite ults in the game, and I'm bummed that it's only on one target, because surely those swords could hit like a lot more than just one guy, right? I mean, it does a lot of damage, which is fine. That's actually the ideal, but being Hunt is kind of limiting unless you just mog everything. Dude, he is still going.
As I pray, unlimited blade works.
The multiplier on this ability is ridiculous and honestly feels super satisfying to throw in the middle of your volley of death. For talent priority, make sure to level up his skill first, since that's going to be most of his damage, and then his ultimate, talent, and if you use it for the style points, his basic attack. I am so glad he was free, because with all of those multipliers, he may actually be able to reach a chinchillion damage. Despite the silhouette of his head in this game looking like Bart Simpson, Archer has 10 million aura. Just don't open up the main menu with him. 1.0 players might love this unit more than actual Fate enjoyers because he's just new gen Zilla, and that's gonna save you probably 17 weeks of farming. Archer wants the Genius of Brilliant Stars relic set, which has a 10% quantum damage bonus for him, but also a huge defense ignore that increases if the enemy is quantum weak. You can also use the Scholar set if you have it, but it does end up being a fair bit worse than Genius. And same deal with the Poet of Morning Collapse. He'll be slow, so it's great on him, but Genius is just too strong and will be better. Without Silverwolf though, the gap is quite a bit closer. As for planar sets, you basically only want Rudolent Arena, since it's going to massively buff his skills and give you an extra 8% crit rate. Or you could just give him a good team and like any planar set ever, and he'll clear in 2 to 3 cycles. Like if you had a Lobotomy and played him with Belobog of the Architects, you'd probably still 3-star MOC 12. For main stats, I recommend Zilla. Well, not like actually equipping Zilla, because I don't really know how you do that. Just a relics. A crit rate or damage body, attack percent boots, a quantum damage or attack percent sphere, and an attack percent rope. The reason you want attack percent on your boots is because if you play Archer fast, he'll get more turns, but he won't actually be able to use multiple skills at every opportunity, and in that time, he'll drop his buffs. So typically, slow Archer is going to be better. As for his planar sphere, attack percent isn't very far behind quantum damage because he gets so much damage bonus from his kit, traces, and build. So I recommend just picking the one with the better substats. And lastly, for your substats, make sure that he's slow. You don't want much speed at all. And for the rest, crit damage and attack percent are great, but you really want to also make sure that you get 100% crit rate, because this is Honkai Star Rail, and if you don't get 100% crit rate, you will not crit, even 1% of the time. Here's the build summary for my GOAT Archer. I never thought the day would come where I'd be able to play someone more bricked up than I am for Riz. Speaking of bricked, Archer's not one of those characters that requires a specific light cone to be strong. Not that it mattered, because he's free. Archer's signature light cone is only about 15% better than the best free-to-play option, meaning that he absolutely does not need it to cook. But if you do get it, it'll increase his crit rate by 16% at S1, and it'll give him a 40% attack buff with an extra 10% for every skill used up to 4 times. A lot of people will end up getting this one because of the event that makes it come free after spending 200 pulls. Wow! But even if you don't have it, most other Hunt 5 stars will be fine, like Baptism of Pure Thought, I Venture Forth to Hunt, and Worrisome Blissful. Without any of these, Cruising in the Stellar Sea is his best free-to-play option, and it gets amazing damage for a free-to-play light cone. As far as 4 stars go, you can use See You at the End or Swordplay, but I'd highly recommend going with Cruising in the Stellar Sea for the most free-to-play damage. With Archer having free-to-play friendly light cone options and some team options that I'm going to talk about in just a second, so far the only disappointing thing about this character is that Rin didn't come with him. If you want a chart comparing their damage, you can look here at the screen, right here, right now. Emerge. I'm sure you were paying attention the whole time anyways, and if you were, make sure to subscribe to my channel below the video. If I had a nickel for every free limited 5-star male hunt character with follow-up attacks and self-crit buffs in Honkai Star Rail, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't that much, but it's weird that it's happened twice. So teams are actually very important for Archer, and arguably much more important than the actual gear sets you give him, assuming that he has the right main stats on, of course. His teams will make the difference between fast and slow clears, and the stats of his teammates will also matter as well. And the main reason why is because he eats skill points for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 4th meal. Who's the fat now? For teams with Archer, I like to run most of my supports, if not all of them, on Lushaka, and then put Archer on the far left, so that way he gets all of the attack buffs from the Lushaka planar set. And meanwhile, my teammates will get a bunch of ER. Characters that give you skill points are going to be highly important if you want to really maximize Archer's potential, and for that reason, Sparkle is going to be one of his best partners that you could possibly ever have. She's been very good for a very long time, but so many people skipped her just due to how strong all of the surrounding characters were in Penacony. But now she's back with a vengeance, and to give you unlimited skill points. Yeah, Sparkle just works with this guy. The thing is, you actually don't want to make Sparkle hyperspeed this time, just because you do want Archer to actually play slow, so you can make Sparkle about 134 speed, and that should be okay. Archer will get 2 actions within the first cycle, even at a slow pace, and you should be able to get all of your skill points back, assuming that you are playing a fast Gallagher and Silverwolf. I'm talking hyperspeed Silverwolf, where she gets many actions with basic attacks, and Gallagher, where of course he gets to use his ultimate to generate even more skill points for your team. Gallagher is actually incredibly valuable here too. I take a shot every time I've said incredibly. I think you'll die. But yeah, no, he's awesome. Highly recommend Gallagher, even if you have paid options. You also don't have to use Silverwolf here. You can totally use Cypher instead. Cypher works very well in situations where you may be just slightly lacking in damage to clear the wave in time. Dude, I'm gonna bust. I've had many runs in MOC where Cypher actually beats out Silverwolf in cycles, because you may defeat the main boss or one of the side enemies, and the boss just has a little bit more HP, and then Cypher just does like a million damage. Archer stacks up so much damage on Cypher, it is crazy. So Cypher and Silverwolf are both amazing for Archer. You're just gonna be spamming basic attacks a lot with them. But if you're a free-to-play player and you've never pulled a 5-star before ever in your entire life, then Tingyun Hanya is for you, and ignore my Hanya's level. Tingyun is great because she's very SP positive. Her skill only loses turns when the partnered character attacks, so for her, she ends up being fine because Archer's attacks are all extra attacks and don't actually count as a full turn. So realistically, Tingyun, especially especially if you build her very fast. We're talking like at least 161 speed. You're going to be generating a lot of skill points, and that's what you want to do. Hanya also gets to use her skill and generate 2 skill points with it, so it's basically +1 every single time you skill. And if you time it correctly and speed tune correctly with Archer, he can gain one of those skill points back during his skill barrage to be able to skill 4 times in a row, even with a limit of 7 skill points. So even without Sparkle, you can get 4 skills in a row. This team actually gets amazing results as well. People have been able to zero cycle with all of these 4-star characters and with 4-star light cones. It is possible. If you're wondering what other general characters can be decent, Sunday, Lalcha, and Tribby are fine. The biggest downside of Sunday is that you can't speed tune him like you normally would, because Archer does want to play super slow, so his speed tuning would need to be a little different, to where he would act first and then he would come up behind Archer during Archer's first action, even though Archer's going to be super slow, and then Archer could like basic attack into Sunday, who skills him back forward, and now you just have a bunch more skill points and the Sunday buffs. So it gets a little dank with Sunday, but you can use him. He does give energy to Archer, which is also nice. Same as Tingyun, who gives damage bonus, attack, and energy to Archer. Tingyun also gives attack, so that's another bonus. But anyways, Sunday is fine. It's just a lot less good than Sparkle. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, the goblin always wins, guys. It just keeps happening. Lalcha can be good in replacement of Gallagher if your Gallagher's busy touring around schoolgirls with mecha suits. Lalcha with multiplication and a speed build will be able to attack many times and generate a lot of SP, so he's great. And then Tribby is also just a good general support. She gets to increase enemies' damage taken, and she's SP positive, so pretty good pairing with Archer. The only downside with Tribby is that you might want to build her actually faster to generate that SP, and if you do build her faster, she can run into issues where her ult isn't up all the time. And then I call this team TikTok because I feel like I'm going to see this show up on my For You page at some point. This is my favorite Archer team because it doesn't work and it gets 10,000 likes on Twitter later. By the way, did you guys know that Natasha's E6 actually deals physical damage equal to 40% of her max HP? I'm honestly not sure how many people will be pulling for copies of Archer since his first copy is already free. But just in case you were wondering if you should get E1 or S1, I'll go over which one is best. Don't pull for his light cone. It doesn't really matter what his Eidolon 1 does for most players because 200 pulls will net you his light cone for free. So by pulling for copies of him or getting Saber and her light cone, you'll get his naturally.
Wow!
On top of that, the gain is so small that you really don't even have to sweat it. Archer's E1 gives him 2 skill points back after you use a skill 3 times within 1 turn. So basically, it's buy 3, get 1 free. His E1 is less of a gain at his best in slot team where he doesn't have issues with skill points, but for players lacking helpful supports or who don't consistently reach 4 skills in a row, it can make the damage much more consistent. So for spenders, E1 isn't actually that strong, but for free-to-play players or hyper casuals, it can make a bit of a bigger difference. Overall though, if you were gonna ask me if you should spend on it, I would probably say no for now, at least from a strictly meta standpoint. E2 is a pretty decent damage gain. It reduces quantum res on the target of his ultimate by 20% and also gives that enemy quantum weakness, making the quantum set even more effective too. E3 is a skill and basic level up, and E4 increases his ult damage dealt by 150%.
That's quite big.
E5 is an ultimate and talent level up, and E6 makes him shirtless in the art, which is probably awesome for Fate fans, and is definitely awesome for Rule 34 fans. It gives him a skill point at the start of every turn, which could allow him to be run at different speed thresholds, but also just makes him easier to get more skills on. It also makes it so that his damage bonus to his skill caps at 300% instead of 200%, which combos with E1 to be more damage, and it also gives him 20% more defense ignore on his skill. Now, if you guys want my honest, unfiltered opinion, Archer actually has some of the weakest Eidolons compared to other limited characters. But with that said, his base kit is very strong, and an 80% increase on 10 million damage is a much bigger increase than on 1 million damage. So do with that information what you will. I'm sure Fate fans are going to spend anyways. Like the video if you breathe air or if you've watched all of Fate Prisma Ilia by choice.